Hello, everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name is Jay Izzo, and oh man, do we have a great show for you. I am telling you what, here's the deal. When it comes to building wealth, there's a lot of ideas and thoughts about how you might go about doing that. But one way you may not be thinking about that is through franchising. Now, let me just say this. We had a franchise person on years ago on the show talk about franchising. And we did not go into the depth that this book is going to go to. It's called Real Freedom, by the way, Greg Mohr, why franchises are worth considering and how they can be used for building wealth. By the way, I want to say New York Times, Wall Street Journal, best-selling author, book, Wall Street Journal, WSJ. Yeah, this book right here. Not a long read, by the way, about 101 pages read. But can I tell you something? Power packed, filled with everything that you're going to need to be successful in the franchising world. And here's what else. The franchise maven himself, Gregory Mohr, is here with us. And by the way, I say franchise maven because if you go to franchisemaven.com, that's his website, and you'll be able to, because he's a franchise maven consultant, meaning that he can consult you all the way through this whole process because he's done it a lot. Right. So we're going to talk to him about this. This is really, really good stuff. I think you're really going to really enjoy it. Before we get to him, let's do what we do every week, right? You're four-part people. We all are. We're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual people. Fact of the matter is, if you're not working on yourself in those four areas every single day, you're not growing and you don't stay static. Ultimately means you're dying. And so we need to be working on ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually every day. And so what we do is we have you evaluate yourself every week on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 in being, it just doesn't get any worse. And then 10, it just doesn't seem to get any better. And for instance, like let's take the physical area. So if you were to evaluate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 being average, when it comes to getting enough exercise, eating right, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, right? What would you give yourself as a number? Now, before you get alarmed and go, golly, Jay, I think I'm a 2. No, don't get alarmed. That's a starting point. That's good because we can start there and we can just figure out how we're going to get from a 2 to 2.5, not from a 2 to a 10. Okay, because we're not going to do that in a day. But if we build little by little, we can grow into that. All right. And you know, here's the thing. This franchising thing, right? You grow into it. You're not going to know it all in a day. Even with the, knowledge and understanding that Greg Mohr has, you're not going to learn it in a day. So we're going to have to grow. You know what? You probably are a 2 when it comes to franchising, right? Greg can help you get to a 10, but you're going to do that little by little. Same principle here. You may be a 2 physically. That's okay. It's a starting point. We can build from there. Okay? Makes sense? All right. That's your first number. Second number is your mental intellectual number. Look, here's the deal. You've got to be an active participant in growing in your knowledge and understanding of yourself, the world, and the world around you, the people around you. Right? The business world, right? You want to grow in franchising? That's going to require you to get some knowledge, isn't it? And by the way, you don't think that you can just sit on the couch and somehow absorb it and you're going to magically become knowledgeable about franchising. Not going to happen. You got to be an active participant in that growth, right? So what are you doing? Are you reading a book? Oh, here's a good one. That will help you grow in your mental, intellectual area. But there are several other ways to do that, right? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say you're doing mentally, intellectually? Okay, second number. Third number is the emotional number. Make it really simple. Evaluate yourself in 2 halves, basically. How well would you say you're doing when it comes to keeping your emotions under control when you're under stress and pressure? That's the first part. And then the second part is how well are you able to tap into and understand the emotions of other people? Both of these are important to franchising. I know this sounds weird, but it really, really is because you know what? You're going to have to exercise some emotional control when you get into franchising because things are not always going to go the way you want them to go. So you're going to have to exercise some self-control emotionally. Control your emotions. You do have a choice over that. By the same token, if you want to be a good leader in your franchise, guess what? You have to tap into and understand the emotions of other people. If you want to be a great franchisor, if you want to build wealth in this, Great franchisees. You know what? Emotional stability is part of it. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say you're doing emotionally? And then finally, the fourth number is the spiritual number. And, the fact of the matter is we're all spiritual beings living in these human bodies. Uh, we, if you remove the physical, mental, and emotional, what you have left is spiritual. And we live by faith every day. I remember reading something Greg wrote in his book is he was going to take his 401k and he was going to make his loan for his first franchise with his 401k because he had faith in himself, because he was willing to bet on himself. Right? That's still faith, isn't it? Because you don't know what's going to happen. Right? But you have faith, you believe. You've probably made plans in the future that haven't happened yet, but you believe they're going to happen. You took a sip of your coffee, believed it wasn't poisonous this morning. You pushed the button on your car, believing it was going to start this morning. Right? But we all want to connect to something bigger than ourselves. We all want to find peace and joy. And how do you do that in the midst of your own chaos? Is it God? Is it nature? Is it meditation? Is it something else? And is it working? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say your spiritual area is going? That area, those 4 areas are like the air in the tires of your car. If one tire is too low, it's hard to steer the car and move it to where you want to go. If all 4 tires are too low, well, you're going to ruin the car over time. And so we want to bring our tires to the right height. And speaking of someone who does that, his name is Gregory Mohr. He has managed restaurants, been an microelectric circuit engineer, owned and operated dry cleaners, storage units, rental properties, and franchises. He's a multi-million-dollar franchise consultant, has helped hundreds of people achieve their future goals, connecting them with the future opportunities, helping them invest in themselves. He is the Wall Street Journal best-selling author of Real Freedom: Why Franchises Are Worth Considering and How They Could Be Used for Building Wealth. He's also podcast host of Franchise Maven and the Franchise Maven podcast. And you can learn more about Greg and franchising by go to franchisemaven.com. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show and welcome to the first time, Gregory Mohr. Welcome, Greg, to A New Direction.
Jay, I appreciate you having me today, sir. It's an honor.
Thank you. So let's dig right in. This book is really interesting. I'm interested in franchising. I always have been interested in franchising. I think, a lot of times, I build my own business and that is okay. But sometimes, you don't know where to start. So I think franchising is a great option. So help us understand why you believe franchising is a great option for people to get into.
Jay, it's because that people don't always have the latest, greatest idea on there. I know I didn't when I got started in that. I couldn't think of any one business I could start for myself. And then the other option is you can buy a privately owned business, one that somebody else has already built up and is selling on there. That's what we did with the dry cleaners and the storage units. Me and a partner of mine, when we were in engineering, we did that together on a side hustle. That was a challenge, not knowing anything about dry cleaning. And then you go in there, cold feet, and the guy just hands you the keys after he buys it and says, "Go get them, Tiger." And you got, we're like, where do you get all this stuff? What do you do next? How do you do the marketing? Oh, I think franchising is a great option for those folks who don't want to do it all by themselves. They like having a team of people that'll help them grow. They like having that playbook, that step-by-step playbook where you're never wondering, what do I do next? It's nice having a support system there that'll help you with it, and they'll help you grow and help you build your business, and having a mentor along the way as well.
In chapter 1, you have a title entitled "Freedom is One Franchise Away," and matter of fact, you end that chapter with "Freedom, my one franchise away." Freedom seems to be a big point for you when it comes to franchising. So I guess give people your perspective on freedom and franchising and why it's personally for you, such a powerful way to build wealth.
So spent 30 years in the corporate world, 15 years as a restaurant manager, and then 15 years as a microelectronic circuit engineer. You had to be at that place of business for a certain amount of time. on there. With the restaurant management, that was a bit of a challenge. It was a lot of fun when I was younger, not so much fun as I got older, because it's a lot of hours where you had to be there and you had to do things a certain way and at a certain time. The engineering world, the same thing. They wanted you there. They wanted you at your desk. And basically, in any corporate world, they want you there from 9 to 5. In my case, 7 to 5. So freedom was a bit limited. You couldn't just go out and do whatever you wanted whenever you wanted to do it on that. Your kids got something going on that day. You had to have special permission to get time off to do it. Freedom is essential for me in doing what I want to do when I want to do it. And that goes with owning your own business and being an entrepreneur. Now, we talked about before, franchising is a great option for it. Get into your own business. Same thing. Just make certain that business does not revolve around you. And now you have that freedom that you need to do whatever you want, whenever you want to do it. So you're not tied down every single day, Monday through Friday, hour after hour, behind that desk, in that cubicle, doing it. So that's what freedom means to me. And that's why I think it's a very essential point of the book.
In this chapter 1, you ask a question in one of the subheadings. You say, why are you here? And where are you trying to go? And I'm guessing just by reading this portion that what you're trying to get a hold of people's attention is, why are you franchising, or why do you want to franchise it? Because you ask 3 questions. What are you really looking to accomplish? What is your goal? What do you consider wealth? Why these questions, and maybe more, and how important is it to really be firm understanding why you're trying to get into franchising?
Absolutely essential to be firm on why you're getting into franchising, Jay. What's the point of it? Do you think you're going to become a millionaire in a year or two? Well, probably not. So it's probably not a good reason if that's what your backing is. It does take a little bit of work to do any kind of business itself. So really, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? What is a driving force behind you saying, whatever situation that I'm in now is not the situation I want to be in for the rest of my life? How do I go about changing it? Why is it here? What are you looking to accomplish on there? And with that wealth situation, it's interesting. When you talk to many different franchisees as you're going through the process of investigating a franchise, not all franchisees are making 6-figure incomes. Some of them are doing less than that. And so you may talk to them and say, I wonder why this guy or gal is only making $50,000 a year. Well, because their goal was to have as much time with family as possible, but they only need a little bit of money on the side to do it. So they don't want to put in, an 8-hour day. They want to put in maybe 3 hours or 4 hours.
Right.
On that. So they won't necessarily be making as much as the person that is in there doing it full time. They may be paying other people to do a lot of the work for them, but their goal and what they consider wealth is having the time to spend that time with friends, family, and doing the things that they really enjoy doing. A lot of my people really enjoy running businesses, so that's what they do full time. But you have that option then with that. So why are you doing it? What's the driving force behind what is having you look at the option of franchising and considering that for your future?
Which leads us to chapter 2, conveniently, and that is choosing the right franchise. And I thought this was interesting how you did this, because you didn't just tell us, well, this is how you choose it. The first thing you kind of come out with is, here's 7 franchising mistakes that you need to avoid. The first one is not understanding the business or industry before getting started. What are you trying to say there?
What I'm trying to say there, Jay, is that first off, you don't have to be passionate necessarily about that industry business. You don't have to necessarily have background in that industry or business. But if you're looking at that industry or business as something that's you're interested in, get to know how that business runs. How do they make their money on that business? What's the model behind it? How is it sustainable? How many people can use that product or service? How likely are they to use that product or service no matter what the economy is doing? Things to think about.
Yeah, I thought that something that you said, you brought up Warren Buffett. I think you gave an example here, does not get involved in technology because he doesn't really understand it. So That's not where he goes, right? And so I think there's a part of it here where you do have to have some at least moderate interest, don't you?
You
In-
do. You have to be interested in it. So
yeah.
so as an example, let's use an example.
Mhm.
Almost everybody's got a mom and dad. I'm assuming at this point in time, nobody's been, test tube babies or anything like that.
Yeah, I think so.
So mom and dad at some point in time in their life are going to get to that age where they need help around the house. They don't really want to go to an assisted living facility, so they need some senior care. You may not know anything about that industry, but that may be something that interests you because you had personal experience with trying to find someone to help mom or dad out, so they could stay at home a little while longer in there. So that would be a good example of you're interested in that because you've got family members that are doing that, but you don't know anything about that industry, but you really like helping people. And especially for people who really like to give back to their community, like tutoring, senior care, things like that. If you like giving back to the community, that's your interest. Those are the industries that you want to look at, but you don't necessarily know anything about them yet. Find out. Take an in-depth view of those.
Good. That's really, really good. All right, so let's do franchising. Of the 7 franchising mistakes that you can make, let's do number 2. Not figuring out how much the franchise costs. That is the investment level. Talk about that.
Right. So when you're looking at franchising, you can do this by yourself. You can get my help. My help is free. That's fine. You don't want to get my help. That's fine too. Do it yourself. Go through the book. You can do it yourself. Pretty much everything. So what does that franchise cost? What is the true investment on that franchise? So don't get, you can go online. You could say this franchise is $50,000. Well, no, this franchise is not $50,000. The franchise fee is $50,000. But what's the total investment of that franchise that you're getting into on there? What are the costs? And it's not going to be a set number on that, because if you opened up a brick and mortar franchise in my area, it's going to be pretty darn cheap because there's a whole bunch of land out here and not a whole lot of people. You open it up in New York City, it's going to be a lot more. So think about those things as far as the total investment of that franchise. If it's a service industry, not quite as much to concern yourself with. Small office, work from home, you're probably pretty good. But always think about the total investment. What's it going to cost? If you're getting employees, what do the employees cost? What's the going rate? What's the lease per square foot? And so on and so forth for that.
I love this next. Don't do 7 of the 7 franchise, because this is where people roll. I know it's where they roll. Just because it's hot doesn't mean it is. Just because it's hot doesn't necessarily mean it is good for you.
Well, that's correct, Jay. So things that are in fashion now, you're going to go back to the other mistake of knowing the business model and how sustainable they are and how they make their money. So it looks good right now because a lot of people are like, that's really cool. Let's go for that. I love it. It's something new. It's something different. That's fine. But how long can that business stay in operation? Where do they make their money from? What are their long-term goals on that? Just don't let it cloud your judgment. And if you're driving by a place and you see that it's busy all the time, what time did you drive by that place and it was busy all the time? Because it may be busy during lunch, maybe it is during breakfast, but you've got all those hours in between. How is it making its money then?
Yeah, Blockbuster was hot once.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah.
Right. So I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to last, right? And so you need to, just because it's hot doesn't mean it's right for you. Okay, number 4, thinking you'll be rich in a year or 2.
Yeah, these things do take time, Jay. They all, it's not a simple process. It's not all, cookies and cream out there for you on that. And don't think it is. Even the ones that you're running semi-absentee, 10 to 15 hours a week, you're still going to be putting some time in it. You're still going to be putting some effort into it. And it's going to take a little while to do it. So it goes back somewhat to the total investment as well, as far as which franchise you're getting into. If you get into a service industry, you'll bring that money in quicker, as opposed to a brick and mortar where you have to have the build out, where it's going to be 6-7 months down the line. But in either case, generally speaking, don't expect to be rich in a year or 2. It will take a little bit of time.
I'm gonna skip one, and I'm gonna go to this one, and that is not talking to existing or enough franchisees.
Yeah, that's a great part of that, Jay. Was we were talking about earlier. You've got a whole team of people that are helping you grow your business from the franchisor's point of view. The franchise has all these people that are working for them and help you grow your business. before you go through and sign anything on that document, talk to as many franchisees as possible. What you're going to be doing there is a couple different things. One is you're going to be verifying, validating everything that franchisor told you. These franchisees, when I send my people to them, I got to tell you, they are just brutally honest sometimes, for better or for worse. They are. And sometimes they're having a bad day, and boy, my candidates will hear about it on that. But that's good. You want to hear about all the things that's going on there and validating that. In addition to that, so back to that point for just 1 second before I move on. What you want to do is you want to talk to enough of them until you start hearing the same thing over and over again. At that point in time, then you've generally got a good idea that you've talked to enough of them. Hopefully it's all good. If it's not, move on. Then those people that you're talking to are going to be your friends. You're making friends along the way. So not only now do you have that franchisor that's going to help you grow, but for the most part, most franchisees give you franchisors give you a protected territory where no other franchisee can go in there. So you're not competing with other franchisees. Now you're making a lot of friends along the way, and those friends are also going to help you grow your business because everybody's building that business up together to grow that business, to grow that brand.
That's really, really good. His name is Gregory K. Mohr. The book is entitled Real Freedom, Why Franchises Are Worth Considering and How They Can Be Used for Building Wealth. You're listening to him here, or watching him too, for that matter, on A New Direction. Hey, folks, Epic Physical Therapy, my physical therapist. I think they should be yours too, by the way. They're awesome. Whether you're recovering from an injury, surgery, or suffering everyday aches and pains, having difficulty performing daily activities, maybe you're a professional athlete or athlete who just wants to move and perform better, listen, the elite team at Epic Physical Therapy will provide you with a customized treatment program that is specific to you. So when you're looking for your epic relief, epic recovery, epic results, don't look any further. Go to epicpt.com. It's EPIC. pt.com. And Linda Craft Team Realtors for more than 39 years. They've been helping people all over the world transition in life. And you go, whoa, I thought they were real estate people. They are. But think about it. Every place you've ever lived has been a life transition. And they know how to take the stress out of that portion of that transition. So when you're ready to sell your home, buy your first home or your next home, start with Linda Craft Team Realtors. It's lindacraft.com, LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with Gregory K. Mohr. His book, Wall Street Journal, best-selling book, by the way, Real Freedom, Why Franchises Are Worth Considering and How They Can Be Used for Building Wealth. Absolutely a great, fun read. You're going to really enjoy it. I'm just telling you, it's a good read. If you're remotely considering a franchise, remotely, right? Get this book. I'm serious. Just get the book. He compacts in 101 pages. He compacts literally about everything that you could possibly know, at least give you a framework for it. And then he's a consultant on top of it. And then he's got this website called Franchise Maven that you can also get help from. And he can help you. It's fantastic. And I think he's great. So, and we're moving right along here. We didn't talk about all 7 of the franchising mistakes, but we talked about 5 of them. But I want to move on to the types of franchises because Greg, and you've got 4 quadrants of this. You got quadrant A, B, C, and D. And I think people probably think more so about quadrants A and B, less about C and D. But let's go through them anyway, because people are probably going, oh, what do you mean quadrants? What are you talking about? Okay. So quadrant A, simple retail businesses. What are we talking about quadrant A types of franchises?
Simple retail is just that. Well, you're basically your restaurant. Simple retail is that hourly workers, basic hourly workers. They don't need to be skilled workers. Easy to train them, easy to replace them. They come and go a lot on that. So yeah, restaurants are like that. Basic things like that. Some of the fitness ones are not too difficult. They can be in the quadrant A as well. But your simple retail. People just need it. People use it on a regular basis. They come in, they go, easy out. You're not developing necessarily any types of too terribly long-term relationships with your customers, and your employees don't need a whole lot of necessarily skill training on that.
So, hair cutting.
Yeah, hair salons are another good ones like that. Great clips, supercuts, that sort of thing. Very simple, easy to operate. The cost will vary on the total franchise itself. Hair salons are not really that difficult to operate, nor are they that cost intensive either. Generally, about $250,000, $300,000 for one of those. Get into restaurants, they're a little bit more. Good businesses, good simple businesses to operate.
But they're going to be brick and mortar.
These are all, quadrant A and B are both going to be brick and mortar on that quadrant A, just your simple retail brick and mortar. Places that we see, Jay, when we're driving around all the time.
Okay, good. All right, quadrant B, as opposed to simple retail businesses, the sophisticated retail businesses. What are we talking about there?
They were talking about the same thing with the brick and mortar, but now you're looking at more of a skilled labor force. So the medical practices, health and wellness, labs, your automotive type franchises, where they generally have to have some sort of certification to work there. So you're generally paying your employees a little bit more on that. You don't have necessarily the turnover rate that you would with the quadrant A. And maybe just a little bit more, a bit of a more of a challenge to find the employees because you can't, easily replace them. But since they stay around longer, you just have to take real good care of them, and they stay around there. But basically, automotive, health and wellness, or a couple of the different ones, urgent cares, labs, that sort of thing, are quadrant B.
Yeah, for people who are listening, watching. And by the way, thanks for everybody for commenting out there. He had other. Greg's got a few other things like Meineke, Midas, Amco, Mako, weight loss clinics, those type of things, where you may need a certification, that type of thing. So more sophisticated. I get that. Okay, that's cool. I think those two, if A and B, right? Those are kind of generally the things we think about when it comes to franchising. Now we get to quadrant C, B2C, right? Business to consumer. What are we talking about here in quadrant C?
So in quadrant C, Jay, what we're getting to over there, now we're getting into the service industry. So as you pointed out, A and B, we're driving around, we see those everywhere. That's what we mainly think about. A lot of my folks that come to me don't know anything about quadrant C and D. So unless they've used it. So the service industry or the brick and mortars in the industry is you build it and they will come. General theme on that one, you put in a good location, they will. Quadrant C and D and C is business to consumers. Your clients don't necessarily know you exist until they need you on that one. So a great franchise system will drive people to you when that need arises. If some of the big ones in that industry are, you can take a look at the neighborly brands, Molly Maids, Mr. Rooter, Mr. Electric, Grounds Guys, Window Genie, neighborly brands. You might not know about them, but they are the largest home services company in the U.S. They have 20 brands underneath them. Authority brands, Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning. And they've got a few others on there. Again, home services, business to consumer. You're looking at there. The senior care is going to go underneath there as well. On that one, it's good service industry. Tutoring is another one that's a good service industry to get into. These are, and then, there's a few good ones out there as far as, so we like senior helpers, seniors helping seniors on that one, tutor doctor, many different ones that you can get into on that. Small office, work from home, 150,000 investment, give or take. Pretty easy to get into.
Okay. So am I making a correct assumption here? And I know the danger of assuming anything, but am I okay assuming that maybe to get into quadrant C is a little less expensive than maybe getting into quadrant A and B?
Correct, Jay. A and B are going to run you, as we talked about, the hair salon's probably one of the least expensive, 250, 300,000, but it's going to go up from there, and it's going to require you to have a greater net worth as well in order to get that, because you're generally getting a 7A loan, a little bit more complicated, but more of an investment. Whereas quadrant C, $150,000, give or take. It can go down to 100 for working from home if you don't need an office. If you need a lot of equipment, plumbing, heating, and air conditioning may run you up to 200, a little over 200,000.
All right. Quadrant D, the B2B, business to business. This one I don't think anybody knows about in terms of a franchise that's business to business. Very few do anyway.
Right, unless you own an office and you're trying to get it cleaned on that one. So that's a lot of the business services. There are building maintenance, which can include cleaning and all that. your coaching businesses on that.
Sure.
There are many different coaching business. Focal Point is a good one that comes to mind. That's a great coaching business on that. Anago for business cleaning on that. ANAGO is a great one for that. But anything that has to do with making your office somebody else's back office. So you're taking care of the office work. So you may do HR work. You may do payroll services for them. You may do employees hiring, helping them find employees. Express Employment Professionals, probably one of the hugest, is that a word? The biggest guys out there as far as employment services go on that. Tax services as well can go both ways. You can do taxes for businesses, taxes for consumers as well. Many different things that you can do for businesses. If you like working with businesses, B2B, great business, great section to get into. Again, $150,000 since it's a service industry, give or take on that one, depending on if you need an office or you work from home and go out and visit with your clients.
Yeah, so that's the pro, but you list a con here with these, and that you say one of the cons is you're going to be the one out there selling yourself.
True. That's one of the things that I got into. I did the business to business. I did School Mitchell telecommunications consulting, so I had to go out there and sell myself for the telecommunications needs. So I was trying to help people save money on their businesses, save money on their telecommunications needs. So one of the things that you may be going into is that they've already have something going on in that field. It ain't broke, don't fix it is going to be the biggest challenge. Now you've got to go out there and convince them why you can do something better than they're already doing and how you're going to be their expert in that field to help them out. So it is going out and selling yourself on that. And that probably goes somewhat to a quadrant C as well. Maybe not quite so much on that, but it's going to be the same thing. You're going out, you're visiting with somebody, you're convincing them that you can solve their problem. They have a problem. You're going to be the one to solve it. So you have to sell yourself as a person that I am going to solve whatever problem you have.
Good. It's really good. I love that. That really was helpful for me to kind of get those quadrants in place, because I think if you don't have if you don't have that understanding of how to divide them up, I think you kind of lump on everything, and it can be really, really confusing. So I really appreciate you breaking those out for us, because I think that was really, really important. Chapter 3, the greatest plan for building wealth. Now, before we get into this chapter, I want to do what I know you're going to say anyway up front, and I want to do a disclaimer. And he puts this in the book. Greg does. There's no promises on how much money you can make. All right, in franchising. All right. So before everybody thinks that, okay, you're guaranteed to make, there's no guarantees. Okay. The disclaimer. You heard that. Okay. We're going to talk about it, but there's no promises how much money you make. Did I do okay on that, Greg?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. So there's, you talk about single unit, area developer, or master franchise. So how much do we want? What I guess basically, what's the difference between a single unit, franchise, area developer franchise, or a master franchise? What's the difference between those three?
The amount of territory that you pick up at one time, to put it simply. Okay. Generally speaking, there's going to be a territory. We discussed that a little while ago, that every franchise, almost, I don't want to be too all-inclusive, but almost every franchise gives you a protected territory. That's one. Most people, that's what they start with. One unit, one franchise. Nice and simple and easy. You really love that franchise. You really love that business. You really believe in that franchise, or you really think this is going to take off. You want more than one. So you want to up your potential income, essentially is what you're doing there. So you may buy 3 territories. If you buy 3 territories, then you get into the area developer. It's going to vary between if you get a brick and mortar versus if you get a service industry. So if you get a brick and mortar, you're going to build out one building or one office, whatever it is, the first year. The second year, you'll build out 2. The more you get, the more of a time frame they'll give you to build out those different areas. Service industry, you can start working those right away, but it's a larger horizontal geographic area that you're taking in. As an area developer, you're going to develop each of those areas with your own money. As a master franchisor, you're going to, again, take a larger area, probably like 5 different territories on that. What you're going to do is you're going to develop that first territory as your pilot unit. And let's say you pick up 5 So now those other 4 territories, you're going to sell to somebody else, and you're going to train them. You're going to oversee them. You're going to be the right-hand person of that franchisor. So you're going to get a good discount on the franchise fees for those extra areas so that you make money off of selling those different territories, those 4 territories. Generally, you pick it up for half price and you sell it for full price. So you get your money back on that, generally speaking, on that. And so that's one way to make money. Then, as with all franchises, you have the ongoing royalties that you pay on that. So with a master franchisor, you generally split the royalties. That is where you're bringing your money in from on that. So half of the royalties, if they're 6%, you'll get 3% off each one of those franchisees. So you've got a great annuity coming in, and you oversee the operations and you do the training of your master franchise territory.
I think the point is here, and people want to know, is the ROI. Is it generally pretty good? Does it depend on the franchise? Where do we find, because this book is based around building wealth. You seem to be a pretty big fan that you think the ROI is pretty good in franchising.
It is, and you will find that out once we get into the franchise disclosure documents portion of this, and you will get into it as you go through the franchise. You'll be looking at item number 19 on there, which is their financial disclosures in the franchise disclosure documents. You're going to get a good idea of how much the franchisees are making. Now, as you talk to the different franchisees, you're going to ask them. They've all been in your place at some point in time. They've all asked, how much do you make? How long did it take you to get there? And what did you have to do to get it? So you're going to have that. I would say that in general, and this is what we tell to people that want to franchise their business as well, that they want you to make a good 6-figure income. Some of them build less, some of them build more. Not all franchises do. I mean, some of the hair salons on average make less than 100,000 for one, but they're so simple to operate. You just pick up more than one to make it in. But generally speaking, Jay, a good 6-figure income is what the franchises are looking for you to bring in.
Okay. We're going to move into chapter 4 here real quick, and we may not finish chapter 4 because we'll probably have to take a break in between there. But I do want to get kind of at least started on this. We've talked about brick and mortar franchises, quadrant A and B pretty much, services franchises, C and D pretty much. But there's another segment that we don't talk about much. It's called business opportunities. And I want to at least start into business opportunities, and then maybe we'll finish it after the break. But help people understand that beyond franchising, there is this thing called business opportunities that are a little bit different than franchises. What are we talking about here?
Jay, we're mostly talking about more of a licensing opportunity than a franchise. So a business opportunity is going to be somewhat similar to a franchise in that they're going to have the support systems, they're going to have the help systems to do everything that you need to get done, get you trained, get you the product or services that you need. But they're not going to be as restrictive as a franchise. They won't have their franchise disclosure documents. So since they're not as restrictive, they're not as regulated by the federal government on that. So you're open to do other things. We have a nice business opportunity called Sign World in the sign area of that. Great business opportunity. You're not going to be using their name. So your name, as with a franchise, like mine was Schooley Mitchell. So mine was Schooley Mitchell of Austin, Texas. With the Sign World, you're not going to be using Sign World name at all. You're going to be using your own name. So good and bad points about that. A little less restrictive. Generally speaking, you're not going to be looking at ongoing royalties. There'll be other ways they'll make their money. Maybe sell you buy their equipment through them to begin with on that one. But definitely good and bad points about it. You get a lot of licensing people that run into that field. We don't do a whole lot of business opportunities, but we do have a few that are out there that we're very picky about how we do them since they're not as regulated, not as restrictive. So you're open to do a lot more things, to do whatever you want. With those, generally speaking, they're not also territory restrictive either. So you can go out there and you can run your business and do it anywhere you want to on that. So I would say a little bit less restrictive, but you're not going to have the oversight of the regulation that you do with franchises. And you're generally not going to use their name as you would with a franchise system as well, but a little bit less probably in the overall expense category as far as the ongoing royalties and the initial fee goes.
Yeah. So if you own, if it's a sign company, right?
Mhm.
You have to come up with your own name, like we make your sign.com or whatever you want to call it, right? I mean, you just
Right.
make up your own name. You're going to probably purchasing equipment, materials, perhaps through them, right? They're going to but it's yours, right? I mean, it's yours. You get to do with what you want with it. It's not to me. It's kind of a cool little opportunity. If you were one of those people who want a little bit more flexibility, want the ability to kind of have more of a creation of your own, but you can have the kit. Can I say that? You can
Yeah.
have the
Yeah.
kit sent
That's
to you,
right.
right? You can have the kit sent to you. It might not be a bad option for you, right?
Right. And with Sign World, that is a kit. They have
Yeah.
all the printing equipment. That's the kit. It costs you about $300,000, and go get them. They make money through bringing in other people. So if you don't have the equipment to make different signs, they have different vendors, and they charge the vendors to be part of their system that they vet out. So Sign
That's
World's a great one to look at if you're looking at those.
Yeah, very cool. His name is Gregory K. Mohr. The book, Real Freedom, is the name of the book. Why franchises are worth considering and how they can be used for building wealth. It's a fun book. I hope you're enjoying it. I know I am, and I think Greg is too because he loves this stuff. Right? You're listening to him here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, Epic Physical Therapy. Listen, their facilities offer the most advanced top-of-the-line equipment, including the Ultra G anti-gravity treadmill, the Normatec compression sleeves, my favorite, the Game Ready, just to name a few. They are trained and certified in those comprehensive cutting-edge treatments available like blood flow restriction therapy, dry needling, cupping, and that's just a few. Listen, when you want your epic relief, epic recovery, epic results, don't go any further. Go to epicpt.com. It's EPICPT.com. Linda Craft Team Realtors. Listen, let me just tell you something. They are independently owned and operated, meaning that they do not belong to a national company. They are completely independently owned and operated, meaning that if you were wondering who is the best real estate professional in my area, if you were to start with her, she would know that because of the relationships that she has developed over the course of 39 years. And because she's unattached to any one company, she will find the best real estate professional in your area. She'd be happy to do that for you. Listen, after 39 years of success, she knows the most successful realtors. So when you're ready to start your home journey, whether that's buying a home, selling a home, start with Linda Craft Team Realtors. It's lindacraft.com, LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with my friend Greg Mohr. His book, Real Freedom, Why Franchises Are Worth Considering and How They Can Be Used for Building Wealth. Fun, just a real fun read and insightful. It is a toolkit in about 101 pages. I'm just telling you that right now. And then you have access to him too at franchisemaven.com. So you might want to check him out there too as well. One of the things, chapter 5 is financing options. I think one of the things, Greg, that people have issue with is going, yeah, Greg, I would love to do this. I just don't have the money. I mean, I don't just have $250,000 in cash laying around, right? That I can do this. Does this mean that franchising is out for me? Are there other ways? I mean, help me.
Basic, simple to that, Jay, is if you have $20,000, you have good credit, and you have about a $200,000 net worth, you get an SBA Express loan, and you can get into almost any of the service industry franchises out there. That's the basic and simplest question for that one. The other way to do it, and that's using other people's money. Quite a
Right.
few of my investors love using other people's money. If you don't want to use other people's money, I didn't want to use other people's money. That's just me, personal judgment on your part. I use my 401k plan from a previous employer. So if you want to use your 401k plan or IRA from a previous employer, you can do a self-directed rollover into that, and you can use that money to get into a business without going into debt.
You're a franchise consultant, and in chapter 6, you talk about the process of investing. And step 1 is the initial call, right? And then step 2 is due diligence. Step 3 is make a match. Step 4 and 5, review and narrow down your opportunities. Step 6, franchise investigation process. And then you have discovery day. But you have a section here that says, what does a franchise consultant do for you? And maybe because this is what you do, this might be an opportunity for you to have people understand that your wealth of knowledge can be extraordinarily helpful and can maybe shortcut the process a little bit. So help them understand what it is that you do as a franchise consultant that can help them in the franchise process.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that part. So I went out when I got left corporate world, got laid off, left corporate world. Greatest thing that happened to me. I went out and tried to find a franchise because back in my high school days, I'd worked for Taco Bell and I worked for a master franchisor and I ran a lot of her restaurants. Thought this was the greatest thing. Didn't like that private business thing anymore with that dry cleaners. Whoa, that was a pain. Too much work. So I tried to go out and find a franchise for myself. So I went click happy on the internet. Oh, that looks good. That looks good. That looks good. There are like 20 people calling me up. All these franchise development people calling me up and trying to convince me of, this. And then I had to filter through there and figure out, okay, which ones do I qualify for financially? Which ones are looking for people with my kind of background? Which ones are available in my area? A lot of things to go through. Totally confusing. It's like going through a maze and trying to figure out, where to get there. And then I found a franchise consultant. It's like, who knew they existed? It's like, I didn't. So that was cool. They just laid it out for me, which is what I do for my folks. Okay, take a step back. Don't do anything just yet. What I do for you as a franchise consultant is I look at where have you been? What do you bring to the table? What is your skill set on there? What's your background? What have you done in the past? Okay. Got to know what's up inside your head. The boxes in your head are golden boxes in there. You got a lot of good stuff in there. Where are you at now? Where are you at now? Which means how much time are you willing to invest in a franchise? How much money are you willing to invest in a franchise on that? Those are going to be the two main things. I got lots of other questions, but those are the two main things. And then where do you want to be 5 to 10 years from now? So I can use that information to help you narrow down the field of franchises that will work for you. I talk with these franchise folks on a regular basis. Part of the things I do day in and day out is talk with the franchises, find out who are they looking for, who makes a successful franchisee in their system, what background do they have, which is why I say, where have you been? What's in your head? What do you know? So that way I can do the matchup. So we got to have a cultural fit. We got to have a financial fit to making certain that your finances match what they want on there. You don't want to run out of money. They don't want you to run out of money. Nobody wants you to fail. It doesn't look good for anybody on that. And then does a franchise match where you want to be 5 to 10 years from now, as far as what your goals are, and really why are you looking? And again, going back to why are you looking to a franchise? What are you looking to accomplish on there? Now, a lot of these things you can do yourself, but there are some things that you cannot. Like with, Jay was talking about the wonderful real estate person earlier on that. You can generally go in there and you can look through the real estate listings because you have a listing of the different businesses or the things for sale in your area. They don't have anything like that. We don't have anything like that as far as franchising goes. So it's a bit of a challenge for any individual to go out there and try and figure out what is a requirement for net worth? What is a requirement for liquid? What is a requirement for your background? So I help really narrow that down and really streamline that process so that, that maze is your friend. I just throw out all the outlying paths with it. You're going to go down there and hit dead ends. I eliminate all that. And we just take you for a straight line. This is what you're looking for. This is what you want to do. This is where you want to be. These are the franchises that are looking for people like you. You qualify for them in every sense of the word. Now it's just a matter of getting you introduced to them and getting to know them personally. They get to know you personally. And is it a good personal match?
As a psychological professional, one of the things I keep thinking about, and as a coach, I keep thinking about everything that you said, and I was reading, this and as well as listening to here now. And I think one of the things that's often missed that you really dig into is your alignment with your strengths, gifts, talents, and abilities, and then the cultural alignment with the franchise. I think there has to be, those two things have to be in alignment. We talk about a lot in business that, hire to your culture. Don't hire talent, hire to your culture. And I tell clients often, you know what? Don't go for the best salary. You look for the culture that you're going to be best fit in, that is in line with your core values. And I keep hearing, at least that's how I interpreted it. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me, Greg. But what I kept hearing was be in alignment, be in alignment, be in alignment, be in alignment. Because if you're in alignment with yourself and you're in alignment with the franchise, this thing's going to go a whole lot smoother. Do I have that right?
Oh, absolutely right, Jay. Cultural fit is just huge on that. I can do a lot of things for you, and I can come up with them. That's why I come up with about 5 or 10 different opportunities for you. We look through them. We narrow it down to 1 or 2, or usually 2 or 3 that look like a good fit. And I kind of know their culture a little bit, and I kind of get to know you and what kind of culture you like as well. But when it really hits, comes down to the rubber hitting the road, that's why we do the introduction. We go through the due diligence process together, because it's really, if they've got to fit your core values, you've got to fit their core values as well. They're doing a mutual, you're both doing a mutual elimination at that point, or bringing together of that. But core values, cultural fit are absolutely essential on that. And just getting to know, when you get to know those franchisees and finding out what they do on a regular basis and picturing in your mind what they do on that, if you can do that and you like the culture that you're hearing about from them and like what they're saying about the franchisors, you're on the right track. If you're doing that and you not picturing in your mind, doing what they do on a regular basis, the most successful ones, and you're not aligning with the franchisor culturally, then it's time to move on.
We got a couple minutes left here. I want to talk about just kind of a general overview, because I do think the document is important. This is called an FDD, or the franchise disclosure document. And I think it's an important document. Yes, it's a legal document. There's a legal side to this document, but there's also an opportunity in this document, at least the way you describe it for me, that there should be some red flags here that you need to be picking up along the way of the FDD. So explain to people real quickly what a franchise disclosure document is, and why it's really important to know it, and because you do go through the items in this book.
Right, Jay. The franchise disclosure document and then the ultimate franchise agreement are 2 things you definitely have to have a franchise attorney look over before you get involved in any franchise system at all. Franchise disclosure document, what to look for in their background information on those franchisors themselves, both personally, professionally, and if they've had any bankruptcies, any litigations, any lawsuits on there. Always check those out thoroughly on that. More franchisees you have, more chances you're going to have some litigation. Litigation is not necessarily a bad thing. You don't want to see a whole lot of it, though. And if it's doesn't have 1,000 franchisees, only had a few and they got litigation, that's probably not a good sign. You want to kind of consider that one when you're looking at there. Those are important things to look for in there. Look for the number of franchisees that are currently operating the business, and the number of franchisees who operated the business and are no longer operating the business. To be an item number 20 on the franchise disclosure list. That will give you easy math, simple calculator, easy math on success rate on that. So the success rate does not necessarily always mean this how successful you will be in the franchise system, but a lot of that means is how successful is that franchise, or in picking out the right franchisees to get into that system. You want to see about 85-90% success rate or better on that one. Many different reasons why a franchisee may fail. Moving out of the area, spouse moved out of the area, turned it over to another person, but check it out if you want to. I checked mine out when I did my School of Mitchell thing. I went through the ones that failed, and I found them and called some of them up. But those are some of the important things. Find out where they're making their money at from the franchisor's point of view. Franchisors should be making generally the most of their money, or all of their money, all or most of their money from the royalties. You don't want them making money off of franchise fees, because that means they just have to sell more franchises. You want to make it off the royalties. You're paying them royalties. The more you pay that franchisor, more successful they are. So they want you to make as much as possible so they can be as successful as possible. So make sure they're not getting any kickbacks from, if you're a restaurant, from the food that you have to buy through them. They're making more off the kickbacks than they are off of the royalties. Bad sign on that. It's a few things there.
Yeah, that's really good, because if they're making money off of selling more franchises, it becomes a kind of a pyramid scheme type thing anyway, right?
Yep.
because they're making money off the sign franchise is not a good one. Greg, you've been great. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Tell people how they can get a hold of you, please.
Go to my website, franchisemaven.com. That's franchise, M-A-V as in Victor, E-N.com. Email me at greg@franchisemaven.com, or just pick up the phone and give me a call at 361-772-6401.
That's awesome. Greg, stay with me. Folks, it's a show, you know, I say to you every week, right? And that is this: you're in control of three things: your attitude, your effort, and your resiliency. I know that life can be difficult, circumstances can be tough, but here's the truth. The truth is that you have control over your attitude. You can choose it, no matter how difficult circumstances can be. You can control that. And you know what? Your effort is tied to your excellence. So how excellent do you want to be today? Make that choice. And I know we all get punched in the teeth or punched in the gut and get knocked down, but it's up to you to get back up. Get back up, because you don't know what the next step will bring. I'll be back next week with another great guest. It's going to be another great book. It's going to be another great show. As I say to you all over the world, you had a ton of choices. You chose us. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for listening to us. And you know what I say to you all over, and that is this: ciao, everybody.